Welcome, everybody, to the RnR podcast. It's a new podcast here with my name is Rich, and this is my buddy Riley.
Heyo.
And this is a podcast where we want you to stick around, relax, and hear about our lives and Magic the Gathering, and just, we hope you enjoy it, and we'll let you know who we are, where we come from, but first, Riley, man, how's life in Magic lately?
So right now, basically I've been doing a lot of MTGO drafts in Kaladesh, and so far the set's looking really fun. I've been doing a lot of that online, and you know what? The thing is I'm pretty excited to get into that, but yeah, it's one of those things that I'm itching to play some more.
It's weird. There's a new set out, and it's available to draft online, and I'm doing the same thing.
All right, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I've been doing that. I will tell my experiences on that a little bit later here. So I imagine that most of the people around listening to this are having similar experiences, going to the first F&M.
Right. Did you end up going to the pre-release?
Yes, I did.
See, I didn't. So how was Sealed compared to Draft?
I think Sealed is a very interesting format, and it was dominated by the vehicles.
Really?
A lot of interesting stuff can come from it. I think my initial thoughts on Sealed is that we'll get more into this a little bit later when we talk about Limited specifically. And my opinion right now is that I actually think Sealed is a little bit better than Draft this time around.
No, I can't believe that. I hate Sealed. It's horrible. Draft is by far superior to Sealed. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
In general, I agree with you. But in this case, for reasons that I'll get to, I think it's, I don't know, maybe something more than I'm just used to. And again, we're only, 7 days of, we're 7 days of MTGO into this. We're one FMN into this. We're one major constructed event into this. We'll figure out how this goes the rest of the way. But before we get into all that, I think we probably owe it to the listeners to tell them who exactly we are. Why are you here? Why do you feel like you need to talk?
Well, for me personally, I just am a guy who likes to talk, and I'm a big fan of podcasts. And when you're into something and you like to talk, I think it's only natural that you would have a podcast itself. That, coupled with the fact that I feel the need to do streaming and YouTube things, it's just one of those things where I really enjoy the fact of making stuff, I guess you could say. But for me, it really boils down to big fan of podcasts, big fan of just, saying my opinion, whether it's right or wrong. That sounds kind of negative, but really, the whole deal behind it is that I really like talking about things to people and sharing experiences and things like that. And, of course, this is going to be a podcast kind of geared towards Magic and those kind of things. And, yes, there's a lot of those out there. But the nice little spin on this is, I guess I'm, in my opinion, I am sort of a half-casual, half-serious player. I like to have fun. I play a little bit of Draft. I play a little bit of Modern. I wish I could play Legacy, but nobody at the LGS does because the Legacy queues that happen on, I think it's Sundays, they don't even happen because no one has Legacy yet. But anyway.
It hasn't fired since February.
Right. And it's so sad. So anyway, I spent all this money on this Legacy deck in paper, and I just can't ever play it. I think I played it twice. So anyway, point is I'm more or less casual, I guess you could say, and that's sort of the spin I have on it. But, with that said, I know, Rich, that you do a lot more constructed than I do, and I just don't know what that build or that mix is for you.
For me, I will do pretty much everything but Pauper and Commander. I simply don't have time for them. Because I do pretty much every other constructed format there is. Like you, we're just some regular guys. I'm a regular guy in my 30s, and I started this game when I remember buying my parents bought me my first starter pack of Revised, 3rd edition. from Walden Books in Mentor, Ohio.
Man, we're going back now.
We're going back. And the first rare that I opened was a Force of Nature.
I almost thought you were going to say Force of Will, and then I'm like, I don't even know what Force of Nature is.
Force of Nature, 8/8 Trampler. 5 to cast, beautiful, right?
Does.
I'm sorry, 6 to cast, 4 green, 2 colorless.
Is that the one with the weird
You
ooze art?
gotta pay the 4 green. Kind of looks like the Predator.
Yeah. It's really weird art. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, kind of looks like the Predator. Well, I played back then. I got a nice collection back then. Did not have Moxes, but I had Arabian Nights, all Antiquities, all the good stuff. And I played, I only collected until about 96, and then I played off and on when I was back home from college. And then, unfortunately, around the year 2000, I was playing sports in college, and I was interested in girls, and there was a party in my house, and I hadn't touched my Magic stuff in a couple of years by that point, and it was all stolen. All my good stuff was stolen. Then 13 years later, fast forward, Theros is out. I'm watching football on a random Sunday with a buddy of mine that I played with back then, and we said, hey, you know what was fun? And they've got me hook, line, and sinker, folks. Hook, line, and sinker. I play it all. I was very good at my timing and getting back into, well, what I found out was Legacy. The sticker shock on those dual lands that I traded for $5 back then, that was rough.
Yeah.
that was rough. But I had very good timing on that. Since I've been back, there's been 2 huge spikes. I got into Legacy. I knew what I wanted to do right away. And I got all that. I got everything that I wanted. So I grind enough that I call myself a semi-serious grinder.
Ooh.
In that I go to GPs. I'll play constructed events when I can. I've been wanting to work on my limited game so much that I'm back onto MTGO. I used to have a nice collection on MTGO, but unfortunately, due to some family events that occurred involving a lost puppy, I had to start over there as well. So I've started over a lot in my life, but Magic is my relaxation. It's my stress reliever. Look, I'm like a 500 player GPs. I'm just looking to have some fun, go to places I haven't been before, meet cool people, meet the artists. I like having my stuff signed. But, we're just, like you, I'm a regular guy. This whole podcast, remember, this just started because we had good conversation at our LGS.
Pretty much, yeah. And we get into topics that were really interesting as far as, certain scenarios and things like that. And one thing I really liked about it was that it just kind of felt, natural. And the funny thing is, I don't know if anyone else has this kind of problem, but there's some socially awkward people at the LGS sometimes. And one of the things that I really appreciate is just to be able to, not feel uncomfortable. So, anyway, for me, though, so this is how I got into Magic, I guess you could say, as far as that story goes. So it's actually a really interesting story because when I was, let's say 4th grade, it was around that time when I was a little tyke, I remember I was playing around Mercadian Masks time, and I remember I had the coolest mercenary deck. And that also had a little bit of Prophecy, a little bit of Urza Saga, whatever. It had all these random cards, and I thought it was so cool because you could tutor up any mercenary you wanted, and then it'd be horrible because all the older guys would end up beating me with it, but whatever. So
here's what's unique about that. I mean, I'm telling my story, and
yeah.
I mentioned Force of Nature, which now is just a horrible card.
Right,
it's just a horrible card. Has been a horrible card for a decade, probably.
Sure.
And now you get to tell stories about things I don't understand.
There you go. So yeah, basically, I had this deck, and fast forward to high school, I would say like freshman, sophomore year, I get really into sports, and what's happening is I basically live to basically run. So I was big in the cross country, big in the track, and what ended up happening was I remember it was either freshman year or sophomore year, but I had this big box of cards, and I remember thinking, I'm never going to play this ever again. I'm doing nothing. This is gathering dust. So I give it to some nerd, and actually, I don't remember who I gave it all to, but we're talking, honest to God, we're talking Reanimates, we're talking Days, we're talking like all these older cards. I don't think any power or anything like that in there. I don't remember any of that, but I do remember some really old cards from that era of those sets I mentioned previously, and I just got rid of them. So fast forward 2 years out of college. So remember, I was just doing a lot of running. I was just running constantly and getting through school just barely. So anyway, what happens is 2 years out of college, this game comes out called Hearthstone, and I was like, hey, this reminds me a lot about Magic, so this looks kind of fun. So I get on and I play. It's pretty fun.
There's a lot of people booing right now.
I know, right. Well, I'll get to that part of it.
Fair.
So what ends up happening is I play it, I'm into it, and they have this game mode called Arena where, for people who, I'm sure there's like one person who not sure what that is. Arena is sort of like Draft where they give you 3 random cards of the same rarity and you pick one. And I was addicted to it. I love that concept of like, well, I get to build my deck on the fly. And everyone's kind of on the same playing level. Although it's not exactly true with Arena, but we're not going to get into that. Point is I had a lot of fun. But
Kibler's around to let everyone know about it.
Right. So here's the deal, is I kind of got burnt out of it pretty quick. I ended up playing it just to get those daily challenges or whatever, just to get the coins or whatever. And after, I remember them being like, the simplest challenges were like, get 3 wins. And after 2 wins, I was like, bored of it already, and I was just dying to get that 3rd win so I could quit playing. So anyway, I kind of got burnt out of it, and I remember this made me think about it, and I said, okay, well, I remember Magic was fun, so I wonder if Magic's still even a thing. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I go onto Google, I type in Magic the Gathering or whatever, and somehow I get to Twitch, and I'm watching a Pro Tour, and I'm watching Patrick Dickman play Splinter Twin. And so here I am, like trying to understand all these cards I've never seen before, and I swear to God, I never understood.
What perfect timing for a perfect deck and the perfect person playing it to appreciate like all the ins and outs of Magic. Right?
But the thing that was funny about it was I didn't understand how that was an infinite combo. Like I was reading both the cards, I'm like, I don't get it. So anyway, being kind of limited in that sense,
well,
I remember
I've been back 3 years.
Yeah,
and I can say that like now.
Yeah,
I have a good grasp of the rules.
Right.
And I'm here playing competitively.
Yeah,
I can only imagine what it's like just like putting on Twitch like that.
Well, see, that's they say that's one of the big issues with coverage is not knowing what everything does is kind of rough, and I did experience that. But I do remember what really got me hooked back was I think that was a Friday, so Saturday morning they switched to Draft, and I started watching it, and I was like, you open up a booster pack, you take one, the best card, and the whole time I was thinking, this is just like fantasy football. This is so cool, right? So I was like, this is amazing, and I hate to admit this, but what ended up happening was they have those ads that are like, play at your local F&M or whatever, and I went to the website, I actually looked on their map app or whatever it is, and I ended up finding out there was a game store like within 2 minutes of walking, like a walking distance from where I was at, and then I got back into right around Born of the Gods time. So in all honesty, Hearthstone was my gateway back into Magic.
That's pretty interesting, and podcasting is something that itself. You mentioned that you have to have a creative outlet, and I said the same thing to you, and over the last 4 years, it's interesting how timing goes in life and everything like that. I've been writing about football at a website that's still owned by Chris Collinsworth, but he's moved on to owning Pro Football Focus and turning that into an empire. And so over the last 4 years, I've been writing about football and then doing podcasts on it. You can find me under the username PolishGuy00. You can go to footballpros.com. You can find my real name there. I don't care. And you can also find out what happened in the Super Bowl 2 years ago in case you've been living under a rock. But it just so happens that I stopped writing this year. I was not part of the move on to Pro Football Focus. Look, I'm just a guy. I don't have writing credentials. I don't have any journalism experience. I'm just a guy that played sports, knows a lot about sports, likes talking about it, annoys people with opinion, but I'm also that guy that people went to like, hey, Rich, who did Omar Infante play for in 2005? And I'd be able to tell him. And I actually don't even think he was in the league at that time, but if he did, it was probably for the Marlins. Anyway. Maybe. Anyway. So that's how we get here, folks. And, we're going to have, on this podcast, we're going to have we're going to talk about our experiences of what's going on. And, we're going to talk about a lot of limited. I'm definitely going to do more of the talking about constructed. But, tell my stories about when I am going to GPs. I'm going to Eternal Weekend in 2 weeks, and it's going to be my first time to play Sanctioned Vintage.
Wow. What's the difference between Sanctioned Vintage and normal Vintage? I mean, I don't even know what that means.
Well, there's a lot of Vintage tournaments where the proxies or substitute cards are allowed. I actually finished Power.
Oh, so you can't even have any proxies?
No,
wow.
not an Eternal Weekend.
Wow.
No proxies at all. I'm very excited to meet Mark Poole for the first time. I'm very excited to lose terribly in Vintage. I'm playing Legacy on Saturday. So I'm really looking forward to all that, and we're going to just tell our stories. We're going to say what's going on, but we have lots of opinions. The thing about this podcast, folks, is that there's going to be a lot of stuff to say because we have a lot of stuff to say, and we're very opinionated people. We're going to disagree. We're going to agree. There won't be actually any fisticuffs, but, there could be some yelling. No, not really. We're both pretty laid-back guys. This is why it's the RnR podcast. So if you just want to sit back, we're going to start with our first main topic. We're going to have 2 main topics every single time. Our first main topic is, thing we started with, Kaladesh Limited.
Yeah, Limited's, Kaladesh is a pretty interesting set right now because, it's funny because I haven't really figured it out. I feel like whenever I draft something, it takes a couple times to really get it. But with Kaladesh, it's really kind of a balancing act with a lot of these subtypes where, if you're going to go vehicles, if you're going to go red-white vehicles, you have to figure out your balance. You have to figure out your balance of your energy makers, energy spenders. Most of that is kind of done for you, but it's so far been pretty good. So how many drafts have you got under your belt so far?
Including pre-release drafts, I've got about a dozen.
A dozen? Okay, so that's more than me. So I only have, I think, about 6 I've done.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your overall thoughts about it?
It's certainly different. There's the one thing that I felt right away, and I don't know, and I actually have some experiences going on that's affected and skewed not only my results but a little bit of my feelings towards the format.
Oh.
I've had a real problem with mulligan variants.
Oh. Okay.
Real problem. And even when I've had a good deck, I have not 3-0'd yet.
Okay.
I've not 0-3'd, but that's only because there's a couple of times already that I've 0-1'd and just hated the deck and dropped.
Okay, then I guess that's...
There's like, this did not work. Whatever I was trying to do here was dumb. I do not want to waste anyone else's time, let alone my own.
Right.
To continue this piece of crap.
Really? So, I guess that then I would lead into, what were some of the good ideas and what were some of the bad ones?
The bad ideas are any traditional control deck, unless you open an absolute control bomb.
Okay.
If you're not opening Fumigate, if you're not, and I haven't, and if you're not opening Cataclysmic Gearhulk, I found that blue-white flyers looked like a deck that seemed like it was a good deck. I have the Angel, I have Cloud Blazer, I have some bounce effects going on. I'm shutting them down with Malfunction. I'm shutting them down with some, what's the other good first pick of the white 3-drop enchantment aura.
Revoke Privileges.
Revoke Privileges. Yes. I had that. I had Malfunction. I think I'm doing well. It looks like a really good blue-white flyers semi-control deck. Smashed. Just smashed. Just not fast enough.
Well, here's the thing with that is that. Flyers are really powerful in the set. I don't know if you noticed, but they're kind of rare, and they actually up the power level a little bit, I feel like, on the Flyers. Especially with that Cloud Blazer. If you have any blink effects, you can really get ahead with that. But the thing is with blue-white, it's like the blink effects, but also gunking up the ground is a big deal.
Yeah.
But with it being that, another thing you have to do is you have to get those blink effects in. And it's kind of, like I said, it's a little bit of a balancing act, but I think blue-white flyers is really powerful, but you have to get that balance in there, and that's kind of tough.
And specifically, I think, look, I'm an average guy. I consider myself an very average and limited player.
Okay.
I might be a little better than that in constructed. But overall, my overall records aren't great. I've had problems with deck construction. Looking back at things like, I think Acrobatic Maneuver, better card than Avery Mechanic in those strategies. Even though the idea is that you can bounce the Cloud Blazer back and replay it, Acrobatic Maneuver may cost one more mana, but the instant speed effect of getting the extra card and then really refueling, that's a better card for that. And my first go at that, even the Avery Mechanic was too slow.
Well, but then again, a 2/2 on turn 2 with a May ability on the bounce, that's pretty good.
I'm not saying don't put it in the deck. I'm saying what I was trying to do with it, I should have been looking for other cards as well.
Okay, but would you pick basically the Acrobatic Maneuver over Avery Mechanic though?
That's too context. There's too much context there because it really depends what I've already got.
I would easily do Avery Mechanic over that.
Okay.
Personally. Now, you'd have to have the support there, but, now we're getting into, like, draft picks and stuff. But
that's true, though. I mean, like, the one thing that Acrobatic Maneuver can't do that Avery Mechanic can do is that even if you play the land for turn, even if you choose just the land, you can leave open any one of the 1 mana effects.
Right. You can bounce the land, replay it, stuff like that,
You can bluff Built to Last.
Right.
That type of stuff. So that is good stuff with it. But overall, I felt like the archetype, I tried a couple times, and I didn't like it. I don't like it yet. And I would have to say that control in general is probably my weakness as a Magic player anyway.
Yeah, you always have to sort of be more reactive, and
I'm aggressive.
Right.
My first card I ever opened was Force of Nature, and I've been playing big dumb idiots in unfair ways my entire life.
Sure.
I play Omni Show.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I'm used to going, all right, jam. Do you have it? So playing control in general, it's something that I'm actually specifically trying to get better at.
So then, what do you think is the best color in the set?
It's green or white.
Okay, so I was going to say, totally agree. Actually, the best 2 colors are green and white, in my personal opinion. Just because green has just the biggest things. There's so many +1/+1 synergies. And you do have a little bit of fabricate that you can do by going wide, but really, white's just got really powerful cards. Green's just got big creatures. And like you said, there's a ton of trample effects, and you just smash the whole time. Whereas all the other colors sort of seem to have a game plan going on, but really... excuse me. But really, I just think green has just the biggest creatures, and it has the best synergies if you draft it correctly. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the next point that I want to get to limited. So I told you something that didn't work.
Sure.
Let me tell you something that does work.
Okay, what does work?
Black-green counters matter.
Okay, yeah, that's a really strong archetype, and I haven't drafted it yet, I haven't played it yet, but I really want to, mainly because of the 2/2 flyer that sucks them all up, all the 1/1 counters up for 4.
Yes.
That's in black. I love that card.
Yes, that guy's pretty nasty, but you've got a lot of great stuff. Durable Handicraft is definitely a build-around card, but if you can get that deck, and you can get a Fair Rounds Trumpeter, and if you can get, you can get the 4-drop, the 4/4 Trampler, which is a 3/3 Trampler.
Pima Outrider.
Yeah,
Boom.
if you can get that, if you're getting those cards, and then even just secretly, like little cards like Kujar Seed Sculptor, if you're getting that, anything that's adding counters, the 2-drop give itself a counter or give something else a counter, that's great in green. You can really build a really nasty deck, and I build a nasty deck with that. And getting 10, 11 Tramplers just because they're on the battlefield is just a really fun thing. Unfortunately, I still managed a 2-1 because mulligan variance.
Right. Just blame it on the card draw.
Okay, well, before I get on the other thing, man, I'm playing 23-17 every single time. Maybe I'm keeping crappy hands every now and then, but there's several times where I've kept 3 landers and I don't see one for like 5 cards. So it's been rough in that. Here's the reason why I edge the best color a little bit to green.
Okay.
Obviously, flyers are powerful, and white is the best color for the flyers.
Okay.
Right?
Sure. I agree.
But green has the best real removal in the set.
Being Nature's Way?
Nature's Way, Hunt the Weak.
Well...
that's the real removal in the set.
Well, okay, so here's the only problem with that is that, with those kind of cards, those are always conditional because you have to have a bigger creature than anything else. If you're behind, it doesn't really do really well. But something like Unlicensed Disintegration, where it just does straight up any card that says destroy target creature is just the best removal. So I can't really agree with that.
I've splashed red just so I can have that.
Right.
In black decks.
Sure.
I splashed red in a blue-white control deck. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, black-white control deck.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Black-white mid-range control, because, again, I don't feel there's a real control deck. Unless you are just fumigating.
Right, usually...
and even the Cataclysmic Gearhole, because artifacts matter so much and they get to make the choice, I don't like the fact that they might be able to keep their best 2 things in this format.
Right.
So, when I'm saying that, black-white control, it's really black-white mid-range, but I've splashed red just so I could play that card. That is the best removal card. That is actually the mistake I made, though, at the pre-release, though.
Oh, yeah?
I fell in love with that card, and I built a black-red energy deck.
Okay.
And my mistake is that what my cards really want to do, my top end wanted to be more of a control-ish deck. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple of Die Youngs.
Okay.
And the red cards that I had in there was making energy, but the thing is that, and this is where I got to give credit to the whole set, the design of the set, is that the red, because it's impulsive, because it's emotional, just like Morrow always talks about the color play.
Sure.
Red wants you to use that energy right away. It gives you so many options. You just go, all right, you got it, use it.
Okay.
And that was a mistake in my deck. I went 0-2, 0-4, and then I went 4-0 to finish at 2-2 when I switched blue out. And blue built up the energy, had a couple of the scry guys. Right. Building up the energy, made my Die Youngs better, and then I had double Marionette Master as the top end and 3 self-assemblers.
Okay, there you go.
So that was, I would eventually just lock the person out and eventually find a way to win.
Right.
And so that was my mistake, but that is great because you think about blue as a color, it wants to research things.
Sure.
It wants it to stick around. It wants to understand what's going on.
Okay.
So you can build energy in blue.
I guess
Red wants you to use it. Great thing about the color pie there, but in Licensed Disintegration in the set, as far as a singular card, that's the best removal.
So that's a really interesting thing you brought up because I didn't really consider that part of it, of the red using it faster than blue and green, because blue and green, that is the archetype of just big energy. Make a ton of energy and do something with it. The funny thing is that, in my experience so far, is that Die Young's kind of a bad card because black doesn't really generate that much energy on its own, and there's only, honestly, I think there's only 2 cards that generate it, and it's not much anyway.
Yeah,
so it has to be.
One of them is Thriving Rats, which with so much 3s and 2s on toughness, it usually wants to put the counter on itself. Right,
yeah, you want to use it immediately. And the thing is that needs to be supplemented with some other color. And to me, that feels like Die Young's just a 2-mana -2/-2 and fun a turn. That's sorcery speed, which isn't that great. So it's actually gone way down for me as far as a pick order. And then there's just a bunch of other things that are better. There's a really interesting thing about it is that I feel like the removal in general isn't as good. Like, normally removal's like first pickable. But a lot of the cards that I've seen have been, the removal in general is just a little bit less than normal sense. And I want to emphasize that little part, but it is really something where I just think that a lot of the removal is a little bit more on the conditional side, and they're not as great as what I'm used to in other sets, essentially.
I agree, and we've kind of been tracking this way the last 3 sets. It feels like removal is on its own as a singular card on the downhill, and and they did this last set, and now they have it this set again. Is what I've noticed is that 1 mana instant speed tricks is now the new removal.
Yeah, and that's the thing too.
And every color has something.
Yeah,
every color has something. Blue will bounce something.
right.
Green will get bigger. Red will get bigger, and then it's even bigger if it's an artifact.
Sure.
White will get bigger, and then it's indestructible if it's an artifact.
I don't think black has one. I think black has the Rush of Vitality.
That's the closest. It's a 2 mana, but yeah,
Right.
that's
fine.
That's the closest. But Rush of Vitality is really good. I mean, you're getting lifelink and indestructible.
Right.
It's worth the extra mana.
Right. It is
that card. That card's better than Die Young.
It is quite a nice little combat trick, especially that life gain really is what puts it over the top, I think, for me.
Yeah, there is a, when you're facing a good Gruul aggro or red-white aggro,
Yeah.
and you've got to just stem the tide a little bit, and you're playing black, I mean, I'll take that every single day over Die Young specifically, but in general, it's just I want to have that card in my deck. I want to be, if I'm in black, I want at least 1 Rush of Vitalities, and I might even want 2.
Yeah, the cool thing about it is that it's really good in aggressive decks, and it's also really good in defensive decks if you can time it out right, because the lifelink actually, not only do you keep your blocker and you trade 1 for 1, you get that life gain, but also in your aggressive decks, there are some cards that pay life in this set, so that life gain kind of offsets some of those other aggressive things, and I really like playing with it. It's very powerful if you get the right setup going, but that's how it is with most combat tricks, is that you have to sort of do a little setup, which kind of makes it kind of tougher to use.
Yeah, certainly. But I mean, that's what removal is now.
Yeah.
And as far as like being the best colors, like I said, I give green a slight edge over white. Red's right there. Red, I think is right there because again, the removal that's good, welding sparks. Usually, it's an instant.
Right.
Instant speed removal is at such a premium that I think I'm more comfortable going into drafts getting my creatures later at this point. I'm going to take, I think, one of the removal spells over a body a lot of the times that I wouldn't have in other sets.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, I feel like the removal, I mean, sure, 3 mana, deal 3 is pretty good, but it has a little bit of a condition to it. But I mean, don't get me wrong, Welding Sparks is good, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like some cards I would pick over Welding Sparks, and I just don't think it's as good as.
Well, I mean, obviously you're going to pick Harness Lightning over it.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, I feel like there are certain. I just feel like in general, the removal spells in this set are a little bit lower, mainly because the set overall has a very high power level. One of the things I noticed, or at least something I guess my comparison to this is the fact that something like Eldritch Moon, when you played it, it was all a momentum game, I felt like, where you would get these incremental sources of advantage, where you'd get like, I'm going to equate it to cards just so that you can say, like this play gives you half a card, this play gives you a quarter of a card, as far as advantage, or you get these incremental little bits and pieces of advantage. Whereas when you play Legacy Cube, I don't know if you've done any of that, one card,
yeah, I did.
One card can swing the board.
Yeah.
So even if you are at 20 life and your opponent is at 1 life, your opponent can play a card at any turn and top deck any card that can completely change the feel of the game, I guess you could say. And obviously what I'm saying is Kaladesh is somewhere in between that. Obviously closer to the less power level, but the overall power level is pretty strong, where creatures can warp. The creatures are strong enough where it can warp the overall feel. So I guess the overall power is a little bit higher. The overall removal power is a little bit lower than what I'm used to. And I guess that was my overall point with that whole thing. So I don't know. I feel like
I've seen, and that's one of my critiques is, it feels a little too bomb heavy. I think there's too many cards, specifically in vehicles.
No. Vehicles have such a rider attached to them. No pun intended. And what that is that if you don't have any creatures, if your opponent kills your creatures, they're worthless. I mean, they're like a creature, but they're not.
But there's so many ways to get cheap stuff out there, especially with fabricate. And I haven't run into a lot of positions where a lot of people are really having a tough time. Let me put it this way: if the only time that I see a person having trouble crewing their vehicles is when they're already behind. That's
that's fair.
That's it. Usually the vehicles are only bad if you're already behind. And obviously on the draw, maybe Ballista Charger isn't as good. Something like that. Maybe you would consider taking that out. But and the vehicles there's too much. When you have a bunch of 2-3s and 3-2s bashing into each other most of the time, and then you have common vehicles that are 5-4 trampling, 6-1 haste, and then you get into the true bombs, and you get a 5-3 trampler for 4, that type of stuff. I think it's a little too strong, but I'll get into more of that later. So that's partially into one of my critiques, but I want to go back to another topic, as you were asking about successes.
Right. Yes.
The other success I've had is the black-white mid-range.
Okay.
Black-white mid-range, and one time I had bombs, and one time I didn't.
Okay.
And both decks were 2-1s.
Okay.
Because every single time I go 2-0, I have to maul in game 3 and match 3.
Yeah, that's the best.
That's happened. I've only gotten to that point 3 times, but all 3 times I've had to. So again, my maul variance. But that I had a really mean deck with just not even fair. And if I didn't mulligan, the power level of the deck was I had Noxious Gearhulk and Sky Sovereign.
Yeah, those two are
and Kimball.
Probably those two and those 3 are probably some of the best ones ever. Kimball, I don't know if that's really that good of a. I mean, it's good, but it's one of those things where you could easily play. I believe it's a bunch of creatures, and you're fine, and it's sort of not even a thing. But when
I'm running a power level of everything else,
right? Yeah.
For you to actually sting me in some way, you're gonna have to get a deal with something else, and you got to take that damage.
Right.
So when I'm going over the top, and this guy's just sitting there, and I'm building. Basically, the deck was building a fortress. Oh, and I also had ways to blink the Gearhulk.
Yeah. So that's just dirty.
The deck was just disgusting.
Right.
That deck was disgusting. Then I had one that was a little different version, which is part of the things I like about this format.
Yeah.
It's because you can try a ton of things.
Right.
You can force some things, like if you're always going to be good at green-red aggro, but the thing is, you can't always go there because there are certain cards you need to have for that to fully work.
Okay.
And if those never show up, you're just going to be a deck that eventually peters out and someone's going to go over the top with you. Unless you're getting the nut draws.
Right.
I just like... The thing that I now like, you can try so many things. So I had another version of the black-white mid-range control deck, but I had ways to make Master Trinketeer really good.
Oh man, that's such a good card. Yeah.
And all I would do is eventually go wide and drop him, and then it would be over.
Yeah, right.
And I actually got one of the more satisfying moments of MTGO is where I played 2 games, and then they scooped the 3rd game without playing.
Wow. Insta concede. Wow.
Insta concede. And he even won a game. He won game 1. And that person did not like playing against that strategy.
There you go.
I don't know, but that's one of the fun parts of MTGO. So, to finish up, initial thoughts on Kaladesh Limited. On my end, mostly, until I react to something you say. At first, I hated it.
Really?
At first, I thought it was just something good for NASCAR fans.
Okay.
And that you're either there to bash cars into each other or win the race by having your own car.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought it was at first. It's a lot deeper than that. I'm glad I was able to squeeze in some more drafts before we got this podcast going, because Sunday night I was going to have a much different opinion. When we were talking about what we were going to say here, I had a much different opinion. Now, all right, let's see where the rest of this goes. So I've had success with basically green counter strategies, and black-white mid-range. I know that I snuck into your stream, which, by the way, folks, we both stream. Your name?
Basically, I'm Riley Michelson. Twitch TV /Riley Michelson. It's spelled weird, so I'm sure it'll be in the description somewhere. You know what I mean?
We'll put it on the podcast description. We'll have both our names. You're more active on there than I am, but you'll see me pop up from time to time. I know we talked about blue-white flyers, and you thought it was a good, strong archetype, and I snuck into your feed and watched for a little while. What else have you done?
Well, as far as other things I've done, I did get a 3-0 draft, which was very fun in the pre-release.
Sure.
That was green-white, like I said. But really that was just because you just have value and it's very strong. But I will say that supplementing that with some vehicles is pretty good. The big concern I had going into this was, I did feel initially that vehicles were super cool, and they still are. And then energy felt kind of gimmicky, and it felt kind of dumb initially, but actually it's really good because if you can get one of these decks, like the cool thing about energy is that most cards kind of work on their own. Like if you get, let's say you have a Thriving Grubs and you don't have anything else, it's a 2-mana 3/2, and as long as you can attack favorably, and usually you drop it on turn 2, you can. But like with the decks that are centered around energy, it actually works pretty nicely, and I don't really feel like it's very gimmicky. And there's things that you can do, and one of the big things I said earlier on is what will make energy a good archetype or a good mechanic is if you're not spending energy on the same thing every turn. If you were just spending on the best thing that you could do, if it was like 4 energy, draw a card, you're just going to do that all the time. But if it was like all these different things you could do, that does make it a little bit more interesting, because there were times when I would have, let's say, I forget what it's called, like a saber-toothed tiger, a Riparian tiger.
Riparian tiger, yes.
And I would have the 1/2 flyer that can give something else flying.
Eddie Trail Hawk?
Yes, Eddie Trail Hawk. Boom. This is why we're teaming up on this. So what I would do is I would keep that Riparian tiger a 4/4 so I could reliably attack with a 4/4 flyer every turn. And it seems like being a 6/6 would be good, but I'd be guaranteed trading a 2-for-1, and while it seems like a good idea, I had a good board and all that stuff, and doing 5 damage a turn seemed better. So anyway, the point is I really like that aspect of energy where you have to really allocate this as another resource, as like mana that doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. I think they did a good balance of it, but I have yet to draft some of the other energy archetypes like blue-red, or I know there's green-red aggro. I haven't done that yet.
I had a 2/1 out of that.
Okay.
It's a fun deck, but you have to get that curve. You have to get those cards to curve into each other.
And then the final thought I had was I felt like Fabricate was really kind of a one-sided mechanic, and what I meant by that was either you're going to draft a deck that wants a lot of servos, you're going to draft a deck that doesn't want a lot of servos, and you want 1/1 counters.
Yep.
And I really can't say for a fact that that's the case. There would be times when I would have the Glint Sleeve Artisan, let's say, and I would say, okay, well, I'm ahead on board, so I'm going to make more creatures. But then there are times when they drop like a 2/3, and let's say my curve isn't so nice, I could drop that 3/3, actually block that thing, and it would be nice because now I have a decision based off of what's happening on the board. And it seems a little bit better. And yeah, there are cards that synergize better with one side or the other, but based on that...
You know my favorite Ancestral Recall of the month is, until I actually get to cast Ancestral Recall this month.
What's that?
Armorcraft Judge.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right.
It's a 4-mana Ancestral Recall.
Right, exactly.
But it's Ancestral Recall.
Potentially, or even better. So, yeah, I mean, that's that thing, is that basically you have the potential of having these strategies, but you can adjust that based off of what's happening on the board. So, I mean, the mechanics are pretty fun. I like them, and I feel like they introduce a few other decisions that it normally wouldn't. But Overall, I think it's pretty good. I think vehicles are like the cleanest, although I don't know what to say theory-wise, but story-wise, but gameplay-wise, I don't know what you call it. Throwing a thriving turtle into a thoptercopter and smashing him in the face is a funny little thing to think about, right? You're like, get in there, punch him in the face, and get out, right?
Well, and that's how you know that I'm kind of a semi-serious player, is that I will point this out when I'm playing people. So if you play me in a GP, folks, I'm going to point out some funny things that just happened on the board. And I'm going to point out those absurdities. And if you're Mr. Stoneface or Mrs. Stoneface, or if you're just a Stoneface over there, and you don't say anything, I'm going to be a little upset. Then I'm actually going to try to win.
There you go.
But, well, I got to tell you, before we move on to our next major topic, which will be MTGO changes, I got to tell you, there's one thing that I came so close to knocking off the list as far as things I want to do in this limited environment. I almost pulled off the one-turn electrostatic pummeler kill.
How does that even happen? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Electrostatic pummeler 1/1 gets 3 energy when it comes to the battlefield.
Oh! I thought you meant turn 1, not one turn. Okay.
One turn.
I was like, what are you generating mana in this whole thing?
One turn.
Yes.
I had like Aether Torch Renegade in the deck, and I built a Smash. And, dude, I'm going down to like 4 or 5 life. This guy's got a good red-white aggro deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there on a 5/5 Trampler, dude. I'd put a counter on the, I keep for the Primal, what is it called? The Pima Outrider. Man, I'm never going to get that. These names, I'm going to screw up forever. This is a terrible time to start with this podcast. Everyone thinks I can't speak a game.
Jeez, you don't even know what you're talking about.
I don't.
I can't even credit you on this.
But what I did try to do, I built up enough energy. It took 1 build to last, doubled it twice.
Ooh.
And attacked my Outrider. They were at 20. And I was doing the math in my head. The one of the guys who was attacking is the one whenever it becomes tapped deals 1 damage to the opponent. I had Xaxes.
Wow.
Based on what they had on the board. Their last card in hand. Their last card in hand is the Appetite for the Unnatural.
Oh man, what a bummer.
Killed my pummeler as I was going for the kill. And I just said, okay, I'm going to try this again, though. I'm going to try it again. You have to play terrible cards, though.
Right, yeah.
You have to play, what was it? Not Built to Last.
Build a Smash.
Not Build to Smash. The green, Larger Than Life.
Oh, no.
You have to play it's the worst. I actually got someone. I actually felt so bad. I actually got someone in an earlier match before that match where I didn't see Pummeler with Larger Than Life. I almost didn't cast it because I felt so bad killing them without the combo creature on it. But, you're going to go for the win. But I knew what I was doing there, and I felt a little ashamed.
Got to go for the winning style.
I felt ashamed.
Oh, geez.
So I don't know how many more times I'm going to try Electrostatic Pummeler because, I know that's a terrible card. I know Larger Than Life is awful. And I felt
together.
I felt it, but together.
It's something beautiful.
With Pummeler, as long as you got the other cards. Well, we'll report back in on this. So, I mean, if you're going to grade this from a 1 to 10 so far, how do you feel?
Well, I've never played Innistrad, so everyone says Innistrad's a 10, so we'll go with that grading scale. I'll say Cons was very good. It was like a 9. I don't know. I'd say it's about a 7. 5 is average. 5 is, whatever. 7's pretty interesting, but we're still early on. Still got to figure it out. And really what's going to be important is that test of time. Am I going to want to draft it the entire time it's available? Because if I get burnt out, I don't want to say that's a sign of a bad set, but it's a sign of there's not a whole lot of place to explore.
You can say it. That's a sign of a bad set.
I don't think so. I mean, there are awesome sets that you just get burnt out from early.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I just think they're not that deep then, I mean, they're fun, they're good, but they're just not super deep. But anyway, I would give it above average, but, I'm enjoying it right now. But I'm not like, I'm itching to play more, but I'm not addicted.
3 days ago, I would have had this at a 3.
Wow, harsh.
Now I have to agree with your 7.
Okay.
I mean, it's been that good only in the last 4 drafts I've been able to squeeze in.
Wow, that's pretty
It's
radical.
been that much more interesting.
Okay.
Of course, it did help to open that Noxious Gearhulk and Sky Sovereign.
Yeah. That usually changes people's minds.
That changed my spirit. That lifted the spirits just a little bit.
Right.
Well, I don't know if everyone's spirits are lifted by the recent MTGO changes.
Oh yeah. This is an interesting topic.
Yeah, we did not go over this one. This is where there could be the yelling, folks.
No, come on. I'm a nice guy. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. There are gonna be some gentle digs. Gentle digs. You're gonna be insulted, but it's gonna feel like you're getting caressed the whole time.
Oh.
Not that way. But MTGO changes. Man, there's a lot here.
Yeah, what do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's get the larger than life elephant out of the room.
Oh, okay. There you go. What's that?
Treasure chests.
Oh, really? So, I guess I'll go first on this. And what I was going to say was, I feel like... So, I get it. People are angry about this. But the funny thing is that this is the same as pretty much every other digital card game prize payout in the sense. The only difference between this is that you actually get play points also. And now I wouldn't consider myself a grinder, but I mean, you get something out of it. And when they released these, they also said what their goals were. I get it now. So okay, let me start with this first. Their goals were to essentially create more availability for cards that are in print, right? The other part of it was to find a way to pay out in a different way that's... I forget what it was exactly what it was said, but it was basically something along the lines of pay out something that doesn't affect like the current economy or the standard economy. I don't know. Anyway, the deal is that overall, somebody crunched a bunch of numbers, and the overall estimated value is way less. And by way less, I mean you're going from a pack, which the packs now are like about $3, to a 2.4, 2.3. Now, the problem with that is that people always freak about it. It's like, we're losing 70 cents. But the whole reason why this is going to be okay is because the fact that somebody is going to open that up and they're going to get something that's 100 tickets or something's going to open that and it's going to be like 50 or I don't know. You're going to get a payday out of it. It's that gamble. Well, that's the whole reason why you're in this to begin with, because you like that randomness.
I understand, but I think that the problem with it is that it creates less value overall. And even though that I am currently I'm not a constructed player on MTGO,
right,
since I just started back up 2 months ago.
Right.
I'm getting close to building some decks, and if I get close enough in dollar value, I'm gonna get a standard deck.
Okay.
And I'll play that when in between drafts, or if I stream sealed, in between rounds of that. The thing that I really didn't appreciate. My background is in money. I mean, that's what I do in my life. I help run a business. I run the financial side.
Right.
I don't like how it was sold to us. I don't like when they say things like, oh, well, now it's just 2 tickets cheaper to do this. This is so good for you. When anyone tells you that, they're giving you a line. And this is a line. And this is an eventual line. And this is, I think, long-term.
Mm-hmm.
Long-term, this is bad for the value. Maybe this is what they want. We'll get to that, too. This is what they want.
Right.
They're lowering the value of MTGO as a whole. Now, there's going to be many less Numat the Mummies. There's going to be less Paul Cheons out there.
Why would there be less?
Because everything's getting devalued. This is only the beginning. The cards that are eventually open, that are 100 tickets, they're going to become 60 tickets.
No, I actually think that it's going to be more, because what's eventually happening is, if you are getting these treasure chests, okay, let's just travel here, shall we? Let's travel to another alternate dimension.
Kaladesh?
Yes,
okay.
Where everything's happy and everyone's great, and
Tezzeret
hasn't showed up yet. So let's just say MTGO was this area where...
Let's assume Dominaria is happy right now.
There you go. Yeah. So let's just say, for example, that I wanted to play Death and Taxes in Legacy.
Sure.
And it would cost me $10 to put the deck together because you have all these digital things that everyone has, and the most expensive thing is like, I don't even know what the most expensive thing in decks is. Like,
actually, right now online it's ports. That's the huge card. It's the huge card. Online it's like 156 tickets or what? Did it get up to 200? I don't even know. Something ridiculous.
Right. So let's just say it's a port, and that cost $1 or something to get however many you get.
Sure.
So how nice would it be to play Legacy for $10? And if you don't like it, you sell it for 8 tickets or whatever, and then you spend $2 and you buy more, and you're paying for entry fees. Then let's say you want to play Vintage. Like, hell, I ain't going to pay all that money to basically get power or whatever to play these cards if I'm not even sure if I like it. And you can do all these like third-party programs as you want, but it's way more fun to learn a format by actually playing competitive games because then it matters. So the idea behind these is that they're injecting more cards that are more accessible to more people. And yes, they're going to lower the overall value. But what I like about this is that they're giving you a big red sign that says, hey, if you've invested in this, you can sell all your stuff, and then in a while, the value will eventually go down over a long term, but then you can get back into it, and basically, I'm talking like infinity time, right? Eventually, everything's going to be very cheap, but overall, the things will go down in value, and that allows me, the guy who doesn't want to spend... What I really hate about MTGO is I don't even know how much money on my Infect deck. It was like, let's say $600 to $700.
Sure.
And how dumb is it that I have to pay $300 to play it on MTGO?
Right.
Which, that's not even real. I can't even redeem that. Now, I'll get to redemption in a second. But that's so dumb that I'm paying extra money for something that doesn't even exist.
I think we're about to dive into something that I would love to be a topic on its own in another podcast.
Okay,
which is purely the future of MTGO. So I'm not going to give my whole opinions on where I actually think they're going.
Yeah, this could spiral out of control. But my whole point of this is I like the concept of it, but I don't know why they didn't make the EV roughly, or maybe it is, we don't really know, but equal to whatever a pack was.
A lot of people gave up, and the problem is that the overall value is going to decrease because the overall value of a singular pack decreases, and which is tied into, and the real reason that's happening is what you want to get into next, and I want to get into next, is redemption, because this is why I don't like the bill of gold. This is not why I don't like the goods that we were sold. This was no, look over here, but the real meat's over there.
Sure.
And the real meat is redemption, and the real meat is what they're eventually getting at, but that's more of the topic for another time, because I have a lot to say about that. We do not have time. We're near an hour already.
Right, yeah.
However, redemption is the secret thing that's why, and that's the problem, because there's a lot of people that are smart to play Magic, and if regular guys like you and me can see that they're saying one thing, and the real thing that you need to pay attention is over here. There's a lot of other people that do that. And Magic has a little bit of an issue with Magic Online and the amount of trust that they've lost over time. They continue to make moves that are affecting that trust. I am very hesitant. I'm probably, like I said, once it gets cheap enough, and I've spent way too much on draft, in a standard deck becomes basically the cost of my next 2 drafts, I'm going to get in standard just to be doing something else. I'm a guy that said that I have real power. I just finished it off. I'm going to go play an Eternal Weekend. Do I have any interest of getting into Legacy or Vintage Online right now, even though that's the way I could get better at it? No.
Yeah.
Because they've ruined my trust, because don't tell it to me like this. Don't try to sell me this. It's only 12 tickets now. Well, the value of what I'm going to win is only going to be 11 tickets a month and a half from now, even if it's 2 tickets higher based on your chests and how they affect standard and pack prices now. I know where this is going, Magic. Don't try to lie to me. Don't try to show me this and then really know that I need to care about that, and that's redemption. And the way that they did the deadlines on redemption is going to crush the standard market, which is semi-good. Like you said, some people can get in, but why would anyone that's semi-serious want to get back in at that point when they know that there's no value to be gained from them? Like, if you take the EV away from the smartest and best people, well, they're just not going to take it.
Right, and that's the thing that needs to happen, is that the prizes have to be level with the payout. And I think that's what they're going for, is making the entry fees smaller so more people can be involved with it, and having a difference between constructed and friendly, right? But at the same time, looking at it, it's like, I like where they're going with it. The problem is you have to make that transition somewhere, and it's one of those things where you need to make it affordable. But if you did it all in one big go, it's going to just raise so much hell. But you'd have to ease into it over time and give people plenty of time to react. But what you were saying earlier about the redemption, I think that's going to be a big issue on paper.
Yes.
Because now you're not having this influx of all these cards coming in to help adjust that price and keep that favorable.
Well, that's why, I mean, look, they're not idiots.
Right.
You know, there is a long-term goal in this. You know, we, as I say, Magic players, like to rip on anything that Wizards does.
Mm-hmm.
Fact is, there's a lot of times when we're just complaining, and Wizards has been absolutely right on with what they're doing, and I would actually agree from a business standpoint of what they're doing a great portion of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes when they're doing these type of things, now, because they introduced that, don't think it's a coincidence that this is when masterpieces now exist, or
Mm-hmm.
inventions, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be called in the next set, or 2 sets from next block is a better way to say it. You know, that happens because they're fully aware that less cards, paper cards, are going to come from Magic Online because people are going to be forced to continue to test with their standard decks. This is really hurting the serious player overall, which that's going to be another topic for another future podcast.
Yeah.
But overall, what I don't like is that the smart people get this. Smart people get the idea that Magic put itself in a hard place as soon as the value of digital cards started skyrocketing in any case whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as that started, when you started getting that divide, and then you have a real problem that you have basically 2 separate games, but yet they're the same game because they represent each other,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're trying to manage an economy. That's just a mistake of the entire initial setup of the game online, and they just didn't. That's the mistake they made. They didn't see all of this coming before and didn't realize what that could have been. I mean, they could have done this as a subscription service from day one and have access to all the cards.
I would love that. Oh my gosh! As a not as serious person, and as a much more casual than your average, I don't know. I'm not. When you say this hurts the serious player, I love it because it's on the steps towards something where, and I know a lot of people are going to hate this because it hurts the bot chains. It hurts people who do any kind of investment in it or anything like that. But I like it because now this is going to make things. This is going to let me get into things that I want to try out for a lot cheaper because I can't justify spending all this money on stuff. And the problem I have is I don't want to pay $19 tickets to get a freaking Golgari Grave Troll that no one on Puka Trade wants to trade me. You know?
Yeah, sure.
And it's like,
Sure.
I have all this, it's like I either have to bite the bullet or I can't play it. And it's so dumb because what if I play Dredge in Modern a couple times and I end up not liking it? Yeah, I can play it on one of these third-party sites, but the problem is I don't think I really get the feeling of what it's like until it's competitive, until it matters, until there's something on the line.
Yeah.
So, to me, I think it's great because it should allow, from an online standpoint, if you're, I guess you could say ingrained, online, it's very good because I kind of made a shift to do all MTGO only, mainly because the LGS times don't really work with my personal schedule. But, yes, I think it's going to be kind of detrimental to the paper part of it. But all these changes are done mainly to compete with the other digital products that are out there, right?
Eventually, the prices of cards on online are going to be a lot cheaper, and with the introduction of inventions, the less amount of redemptions for paper Magic means that those are going to go down as well, just because the EV of a box can only be so much. But it's not going to go down as much as it would have without the redemption changes. And The redemption changes are a little scary, and again, I go back to trust. We know you have these problems. Present it to us in a way that's just honest. And the way they presented this was not honest. They did not give you a way to actually calculate the EV right away. And then they give you the big headline as, it's 2 tickets cheaper for draft.
I'll be honest, I fell for that. I loved it. I'm like, oh, that's all I do is draft.
Right, but then the value of your winnings is 3.7 tickets less, so you're 1.7 tickets behind.
Sure. Hey, I'm not going to look at that right now. I'm just going to keep drafting.
Hey, that's fine. Just look at what they want you to look at.
Absolutely.
You like shiny things.
Yes. I just want to play fake cards as much as I can.
I can't believe for that. We have a lot more to get onto on MTGO as this podcast goes on. But that's our initial thoughts. There will be a lot more on MTGO, trust us. But I'm going to give a little bit of a segment here on that's going to be a signature segment of mine. It's going to be Constructed Corner. I'm going to, since I'm the guy here that's gonna be going to the GPs and stuff, I'm gonna like to tell the stories, and I want to talk about things that are going on in Constructed and how I feel about them, good, bad, ugly, bad places I stayed, whatever it is, and I just want to start off with the initial thoughts on Kaladesh Constructed. I think it's pretty interesting that there's a lot of archetypes you can play. I like how there's a lot of new archetypes. I like how there's combo. There's wacky combo like Aetherflux Reservoir, where you play. Who in Constructed where else by Kaladesh can you play 4 Bone Saws and 4 Cathar Shields and actually make it be a deck?
That's the biggest joke of a deck I've ever seen. Talk about Dirtle until you accidentally win. That's all that deck is.
It's great. Oh, it's so good. I just love anything where you can play Bonesaw, 4 of it Constructed, and actually possibly win. But overall, I think I have not gotten to play it yet, unfortunately. I've been too busy traveling to be able to play on the weekends or in any way else I like. There are a lot of decks that interest me. I like the Teamer Aetherworks deck.
Okay.
Because I like playing Big Dumb Idiots.
There you go.
For costs that you shouldn't be allowed to play them for. So that deck interests me. Obviously, I'm interested to see if Vehicle sticks around. I actually kind of like White-Red Humans a little bit more right now, just because I think everyone's going to adjust, and they might play some narrow cards that only affect artifacts, and then you're just going to be having a good time with your creatures. But they missed one major thing. And as much as I respect Sam Stoddard, and as much as I enjoy his articles, this is one of the times where I have the opinion that they got it 100% wrong, and it's inexcusable.
Oh, jeez.
And it's why you have the problem that you have. The problem, of course, we know is Smuggler's Copter.
I was just going to ask, is Smuggler's Copter going to define Standard?
Well, when you make something like that cheap to crew, and you can pump new Curd Ape, there's no reason not to play it. And when looting is such an important thing for filtering a deck, and you can start doing that on turn 2 in Standard, where you can find those incremental advantages, especially if you're a good player, good players are not going to have much of a reason to not play decks with Smuggler's Copter, because they are going to be able to utilize them efficiently and effectively throughout the entire course of an entire tournament. I think the over-under for this Pro Tour this weekend on Smuggler's Copter is still in the high 20s.
Yeah.
I still think for the top 8, I would say 26 would be fair.
Wow. That's like everywhere. Yeah, I think it's dumb not to play it. I mean, because it's colorless, it goes in any deck. Like you said, it's cheap to crew. It's gonna be a 3/3 flyer for cheap, and on top of that, it smooths out your draws no matter what you do. So basically, it's this thing that is just probably the most powerful card that they printed. Because you don't see people playing Sky Sovereigns in Standard, do you?
Well, the Vehicles deck plays 2.
Okay.
The Red-White Vehicles plays 2, and I've played around with that deck. There's 3 decks I've goldfished around with playing against each other. Even though I haven't been able to play competitively, and that's Green-Black Delirium, the Vehicles deck, and the Aetherworks deck. So I know what these decks do, and I can see why Sky Sovereign's in there. I might only want one instead of two. But the problem that you have was, you make a card like that, and you just make... I mean, why would you make a card that is... And the thing is, it's only slightly worse on the draw. Because even if you're a control deck... If you know that you're getting beat down and you've got to find that answer quickly, you're going through. You're going through you're trying to find that fumigate as fast as possible. Maybe you're going to make a couple of servos along the way to throw in front of, big. It's kind of funny to think of a Fleet Wheel cruiser just running over a servo.
Yeah,
that's what literally happens in Standard. But Sam Stoddard talked about latest developments in his article. He talked about how they purposely made less and more conditional artifact removal in this set. And his reasoning, basically, the way I read it, came down to, well, we want artifacts to matter.
Well, right. Yeah.
Well, artifacts would still be mattering even if you weren't warping the entire Standard format around one card.
Well, at the same time...
Because here's the problem that can happen. We might never get rid of Smuggler's Copter for until at least February. I hope there's an answer in February or late January.
Probably will.
Well, I don't know, because he just said in his block he wanted this to matter. If you have something like this, you have to have an end-all, be-all answer of some sort. And they don't really have that. As he said, they're specifically narrow, and they're narrow for reasons. To not have Shatterstorm in this format is inexcusable.
Well, you also have a 1-mana destroy artifact or enchantment, Fragmentize. I mean, that's as cheap as it gets.
But it's sorcery.
Right, but it just needs to, you can just target it. It's not had it doesn't have to be.
And I know Shatterstorm is a sorcery too.
Sure.
But I mean, if you're gonna make it, I think Standard, even more limited, is going to be defined way too much by vehicles. And I get that it's a new thing, but here's the other problem with it: is that Morrow crowing about finally we get to see Mechanic E in its energy, right? Other than one deck who's talking about energy right now.
Well, that's the thing, is that it's not all mechanics need to get into Standard. That's something that he even said, is that not all mechanics are designed to be constructed playable; they're just designed to be fun. So maybe that wasn't part of it. Maybe it was just like, if someone thinks something great with it, awesome. But
well, then I would say that they forced it too much.
I don't know.
I would say that if you're introducing, which is basically an entire new angle of attack,
sure,
to a game that's already as complex as Magic, and then does not see significant, albeit a few cards, in one deck right now, and who knows if that deck's going to get hated out somehow. One card, I don't know if that's a design success.
Hey,
and you've been waiting on this for 13 years, and we're talking about the Looter Scooter?
Well, it's pretty awesome and limited, so I don't know. I think it's...
Have you opened a scooter yet?
Yeah, well, online, yeah. It's good.
Oh, God. It hasn't happened to me yet.
And the other thing, too, is speaking of, it's the highest value on MTGO over Chandra, burning chick. So it's obviously in high demand.
I third packed open a Chandra and didn't play her. I was already in other colors.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Switch.
It's all right.
Insta switch.
That's a card to go in a Standard deck.
Chandra Mind Sculptor? Sure.
Yeah, Chandra Mind Sculptor. Chandra doesn't fit in the format because of Smuggler's Copter?
Exactly.
Because it's such a bad answer? Oh, I'm going to wait 4 more turns to play this card that doesn't answer the best card you have on the field. Brilliant.
There you go.
So, I have concerns. I hope I see something new this weekend. I know Saffron Hall. Do you know Metallurgic? What is it? Metallurgic
Summons, yeah.
It's spiked today.
I saw that.
It's a Saffron Hollows deck. I didn't get to see this deck yet. I've got to watch it.
I didn't hear it, but I heard I read one of Saffron Olive's decks actually worked. And I was like, okay, that makes sense.
That's not the first time. He's made other decks that's worked.
Right, but they're usually so janky, it's like amazing to get a win. And it's actually just fun to watch.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that
I appreciate it.
that brewing spirit, as you could call it.
Yes.
But that's really good when someone can think of an idea that's so like actually works. Like that's the reason. I think that's the reason why people brew. Mainly is just to have that one deck that they can say it actually worked. It actually made an impact.
Yeah, it takes a certain mind for that.
Right.
I mean, it takes a certain mind that's your goal.
Yeah.
You want to be the creator. You want to show how good you are at doing that. People have plenty of reasons to do that. Of course, I'm too much of a spike. I just take other people's ideas and pretend to...
Exactly.
Pretend
to that's what I do. I'm just like,
I'm
just do a Google
excited
search.
when I throw in a new sideboard card and it works.
Yeah.
I've got 72, you're 75, but those 3 are mine, baby. Those 3 are mine. So, and that did not work for me in Indianapolis for the Modern GP. I played Bant Eldrazi, and I went too far with the Chalice of the Voids and didn't play enough Engineer Explosives. And once you know, I went 4-1 against everything that wasn't Affinity or Infect, and I went 0-4 against Affinity and Infect.
Yeah, awesome.
Interesting. I wonder how that happened. I also faced the God Draw against Infect, and that sucked. That sucked.
Awesome.
Sucked. Any final thoughts that you have on anything you're hearing about Constructed?
Really, I'm not really the Constructed guy here. I mean, really, if anything, I'd be talking about Modern. I would be probably talking about Infect, if anything, because that's pretty much what I play. That's my main. It's my fave. But I am trying to get into Dredge. I don't know where it stands right now. I don't know if people have started siding boarding a lot of graveyard hate, but apparently it's pretty resilient to that, and it's pretty well suited.
The format changed a little bit. I mean, it scared me enough.
Scared? Wow.
It scared me enough that I changed up a little bit of my sideboard for Indianapolis. But now I think people are... I'm not going to even be able to play Modern for a while, so I'm not going to be able to even comment on this, because the next Modern GP I think I'm going to is next year.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's...
Sounds like me over here.
So, for me right now, it's going to be limited, standard, and Eternal Weekend. And then some more Legacy to start the year in Louisville.
Right.
So right now, it's just limited and standard. Hopefully getting enough cards towards a standard deck here, so I can start doing that. But I think Dredge is a solid choice. I think people are trying some cathartic reunions in that as well.
Absolutely, and you know what? See, this goes back to my MTGO comment.
I opened 2 foils.
There you go. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. This goes back to my MTGO comment, which is really I just want to try it out, and I really don't want to spend a bunch of money to try it out online. I'd really like to just pay $10. Have it, rent it even. That'd be awesome. I could just rent cards, hold on to them for a week, just rip a bunch of Modern events, and just after that I can say, yes, I can invest, or maybe not,
right.
Whatever. But, at least I have the Infect deck. At least when all else fails, I can just, crush through and grind out some events with that, and it'll be fun.
Renting, it would take some work between the vendors and Wizards for them to agree on some things for that to actually work. But you would think in theory that it could work.
Well, it would be very hard to actually work, but I'm just saying I would love it to be cheap enough just to try it out. And I would prefer that, especially for things like Legacy and Vintage, because I think it'd just be fun to learn those decks and learn and play with the most powerful stuff outside of a cube,
Sure.
So, anyway, I'm done with that. I'm not going to get into that until probably next week.
Well, we're almost done here with this first podcast. It has been great, but we're going to get to our last segment, which is Gripes, Snipes, and Lakes. This is where we're going to go into things where, well, it's kind of our Jerry Springer's final thought from each of us. And that, this could be something that we enjoy about Magic this week. This could be a complaint. That might be me every time. But, whatever. Or just, interesting tidbit. I'll let you go first.
So, I know I've been saying this multiple times on this podcast, but I'll reiterate it again, which is I actually think the MTGO changes are positive. Not all. I think they did a bad job on the redemption thing. And I can sort of understand the direction that they're going. I get what the end goal is. I know what's going to happen. But you know what? Here's the thing. Is that it is better. It's going to attract more players to try the MTGO. It's going to make them more money in the end. And that's really what it boils down to, is that you're getting more players to grow that and make it more accessible, the online aspect, to compete. Well, I don't know if someone say compete, but to compete with things like Hearthstone and things like that, because the reason why they're so accessible is because they're free. And right now, MTGO is geared towards hardcore people, and not everyone's hardcore. And most people are very, very casual. So if you can gear a room, let's call it, to casual, you can gear a room towards hardcore, great. Do that. Let people fiddle around in this room. Let people go nuts and be all try hard in this room. And that direction, I think, is good for the overall health of the game, for growing the game. But it's going to make some people mad, and I totally understand that. But overall, I think it's good, to be perfectly honest.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I'm going to go with a complaint. And this is more of a general thought on Magic. Magic is my favorite game. I don't see myself ever stopping Magic. Magic is kind of my release, and my stress is all throughout the week. Magic is my way of dealing with that stress. And whether it's building a deck, whether it's going to a GP, meeting cool people, and meeting authors. I'm sorry, sometimes authors. Artists. But I don't like a trend that we're seeing with a lot of Magic's moves. And I don't like the trend of more chance in Magic. I don't like the idea that there's just an increase of chance, more lottery aspects in the game in every single way. Treasure chests is one of those things. Inventions are another one of those things. Making all the master sets top heavy for making all the good cards in the mythics is another one of those things. The EV of a pack is the same as it's always been, but your chances of getting a card that's actually going to pay for a pack is lower. So I don't like this game being turned into a lottery. And sometimes when I'm playing a game, it feels like a lottery. When you've taken out all the good removal that I like to see in Limited, when there's no such thing as Doomblade anymore, and the closest thing we have to it costs 5 mana, that means every single time my opponent is leaving up 1 or 2 mana, they might have the trick. Maybe I saw it the first game, and I'm going to remember that they had it. But I don't like things coming more to chance. There's attacks that people would have done, I myself would have done before, that would definitely been profitable. Now you're not so sure, and that's just because if you're playing an opponent that's smart enough to actually keep a card in your hand, more chance. Now that actually gets more to the skill in learning the new environment. But overall, Magic itself, I just see more of a lottery aspect. And that I don't like. Makes me think that there's a certain hive mind going on with Wizards of the Coast, and I don't know what it means. I'm not in on those meetings. I would love to be in on those meetings, but I'm not. And I never will be, but I've talked about trust a lot on this podcast, and as far as making Magic more of a lottery, it's made me lose a little bit of trust of where they're going with all this. I've agreed a lot in the past since I've been back. I've learned the history of the game. I've consumed the game nonstop ever since I've been back. And this is just a trend in the last year or so that I really hope they tell us, or I hope it gets very obvious where they're going with the whole thing. That's all I've got, and I think that's all we've got. Any last thoughts?
Really, the last thing to say is next podcast probably is going to come out in about 2 weeks or so. Until then, you can find me at twitch.tv/Riley Michelson. That's REILY. And where can they find you, Rich?
You can find me on Twitch at PolishGuy00. You can also find, I believe you have a YouTube as well. We're both going to be posting this podcast on YouTube. And you can find me at PolishGuy00. You have the
yes,
same name?
I'm at theRMvids, VIDS, and that's it.
And of course, the most important thing, the main recording of the podcast will be on SoundCloud. And that's where you can find us. If you look up to the RnR podcast on SoundCloud, you'll find us there as well. There's going to be plenty of ways to find it. There's going to be... We just hope that everyone that has taken the time to listen, we thank you for that. We really like to build something here, and we hope that you've enjoyed listening to this. And we'll catch you next time.
We out!